Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Fed Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And today is August 5th, 2024, and today is Monday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the U.S. markets tumble and then set into motion a systemic sell-off almost across the board. But first, looking at today's major economic events. So we start out the day at 4 p.m. South African time. Out of the United States, we have an ISM Services PMI number coming out. Now, looking at the various markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, we saw the US dollar strengthen as the market sold off. Specifically, it was the Australian dollar and the Japanese yen that had the biggest losses versus USD. We're going to take a look at that. Now, looking at the indices, both the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ tumbled. Now, it didn't fare any better for commodities as gold, oil, and natural gas all sold off. Now, looking at the stocks, yes, they all sold off, but the biggest sell-off was Intel, JP Morgan, and Amazon, but Intel and JP Morgan having a huge gap down. Now, lastly, looking at cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin was no different, and a free fall to 52K. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go. First with the Australian dollar. You can see this free fall. I mean, it was weak. We did mention this over the last, I would say, week and a half, that it kept on making and testing these lows, first at 65, then at 64.76, and then just capitulated and just let through. And now it's trading at 64.10 right now. Now, it did bounce off of that 63.90-ish level, 80-ish level, and that was huge. I mean, look at the greater picture of the Australian dollar. Now, this is really very important because we went from our resistance down to our supportish level in like a dime, all right, in really a very, very short period of time. Now, looking at the Japanese yen, that's another one. Look at that. I mean, this is just unbelievable, 42. And we were trading at 52 almost a week and a half ago. So it's amazing, amazing sell-off. Now, looking at the Turkish lira, also making new record lows versus US dollar in this type of environment to be understood. But it's really important to highlight the fact that it is making new all-time record lows. Now, jumping into commodities, gold did retrace down to 24.25. Now, gold in this type of environment should be making new highs, right? When the rest of the market sell off, it's gold that is usually the adverse and the safe haven to invest in, but it didn't. It also sold off. And looking at crude oil, going back to its supportish level at $72 a barrel. Now, looking at natural gas, also just inching lower to 189. Okay, not a big move, but decent enough for us to test our lows again. Now, jumping into the U.S. markets, look at this. I mean, the Dow Jones sold off below 40K as that just had a massive sell-off over 600 to 700 points. And looking at the NASDAQ, that is huge. And we did break, look at that, broke that 30-day moving average with a gap down, and that was all she wrote after that. I mean, that was just historic after that. If you look at a daily, breaking that 200-day moving average, that's the first time we've done that in I don't know how long. Look at that. I mean, this has been since 2023 that, remember, look, we broke above the 200-day moving average, okay, in, when was it? January 31st of 2023, and we haven't seen anything go below it. We tested it one time, right, after we consolidated some good time here, and then look at that. We're breaking it here. This is really very important because if we continue to break down, we could see this continue to sell off, maybe even to the 14,600-ish level. All right, this is really very, very scary. I mean, scary in a way that, people who are invested in it, unfortunately, will, be caught in this. But it's a huge trading opportunity for those that are trading it. Now, looking at the individual stocks, which ones got beat up the worst? JP Morgan, look at that. 207 down to 199. This is a supported trend. Remember, $200 stock for JP Morgan was an area where we really challenged this for a long time. So this is going to be supportish area. I would imagine we're going to bounce off of these areas. Okay, this is something Amazon also sold off tremendously last week. You could see that just below its 200-day moving average. Look at that gap down. I mean, that is a huge move on the downside. Now, looking at Intel, you can't even see it. It's so subtle, right? We're trading at $21.46. We were before that at $28. Now, you could see it. You can't even see it on a daily, all right? But it is selling off quite aggressively You can see it better on a weekly. There you go. Just this nosedive. All right. I mean, it's a gap down. So I'd like to see whether or not we bounce off of this, because this is the extreme moves. Okay. A lot of times in the markets, things are factored in. And if they're not factored in, there's corrections like we're seeing right now. However, with that all said, okay, these are definitely some really heavy moves. And we're talking about the big chip makers, whereas NVIDIA didn't trade down, held itself down. Okay, it did gap down to the bottom, but bounced right off of it. So NVIDIA is showing some relative strength in this type of environment. Now, lastly, looking at Bitcoin to 50K. All right, and it's still selling off this morning. It was at 52 earlier this morning. So we're seeing some tremendous weakness still in the markets. Now, I'd like to see whether or not this weakness is going to dissipate. We're going to see a bounce or not. Okay, but there's a lot of activity right now in the markets. This is Fed Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.